Hello. So I've had a really interesting week this week, and a lot of profound insights into myself and into my path and into the nature of the mind-body connection, psychology, you name it. And I want to share some of those experiences with you. Um, I'm very excited about moving towards a mind-body practice. And I've decided to make meditation a daily part of that practice because I believe that the process of self healing, the process of becoming your greatest version, means becoming a student of yourself. I want to study myself, and I've spent a long time studying my body, but now I want to study the mind. Last night, I had this interesting experience where I stood in front of the mirror and I did a bit of a standing meditation exercise, and I closed my eyes and I stood as tall as I could, and I just released the tension in my body, and I became present in my body, and I tried to experience as many of the sensations in my body as I possibly could. And I opened my eyes and I looked myself in the eyes, right in the mirror, eye to eye. And I said, "You are a beautiful human being and I love you." And I felt this lightness come over me, and I felt the pain decrease, and I felt the tension unwind, and I felt my chemistry change and my posture change. And then I looked myself right in the eyes and I said, "Fuck you, you're an asshole and I hate you." And that's when the opposite happened. I felt this sinking and this crushing and this collapsing within myself. And the pain increased and the tension increased and my posture suffered. And I was able to go back and forth and do this several times. Just making profound statements about my quality as a person, and then seeing, observing, feeling the changes in my body. And this was a very powerful exercise. And it reaffirmed my belief that the mind-body connection is the missing link in my practice. I've dabbled into meditation. And so I think the first step for me is to make meditation a daily practice, to not compromise on that at all. It's hard as an American. And we in the West have very much been sort of cultured to believe that, everything is about industrialism, right? Industriousness. You need to be productive. You need to be doing things. You need to be making things. And so for someone from our culture, it could be very hard to make sitting and doing nothing the major priority in your day. to say the most important thing I do all day is sit and do nothing for 30 minutes. That can be difficult for us. But I think it is essential because by meditating, you're able to catch yourself. You're able to notice when you're saying negative things about yourself. You're able to notice when you're saying positive things about yourself. And you're able to notice the changes in the body as a result. I've been thinking a lot about the mind as a multiplicity, and how we have more than one ego. We have multiple perspectives in the mind at all times. A great example of this is if you go out to dinner with your friends and you have a big meal, and the server comes along and asks you, "Would you like any dessert?" Right? Would you like to see the dessert menu? That one question will put people into a mental tailspin all the time. Right? Because you have these different parts. You have the multiplicity of your mind. And the multiplicity of your mind has been shaped by your life experiences. And some point in your life, you decided dessert is good. And so there's a voice in your head when that server comes along and says, "Would you like the dessert menu?" There's a voice that says, "Fuck yeah! I want some chocolate cake! Let me get some chocolate cake over here." And then there's the part of you that says, "Ooh, no chocolate cake. I need to lose 10 pounds. I got that new bathing suit. It's spring. I want to go to the beach this summer." And you create this conflict in your mind, this multiplicity. Each of these parts which are neither are you. And that's what you learn in meditation, is that you are not either of these things. You are the being that is aware of these things. But if you're not practicing awareness, if you're not practicing mindfulness, then you are embedded in those parts. And it feels like there's literally a civil war happening. And that conflict happens in your body. If you can step back and observe the different sides of the mind, observe the part of you that wants cake, and observe the part of you that wants to lose 10 pounds, and not be those parts, then the impact on the body is very different. The body is not caught in the conflict. The body is simply observing the conflict. Because the body is a more accurate representation of you, the conscious being, than it is these parts of you. The beliefs that you've developed in a life. The belief that chocolate cake is going to make you happy. The belief that not eating chocolate cake is going to make you happy. Those beliefs are not you. Your awareness of the belief is you, and your body is you. And so whatever that awareness is, whatever that self is experiencing, that's what the body is going to experience. And so by meditating, I'm hoping that I can free my body from the civil war of my mind. That is an inherent part of the human condition. Another thing I want to talk about. I'm using this little thing. I made a video already, and I just rambled for 15 minutes. So now I'm trying a new approach where I actually have an outline, and I'm finding that my speech is way more like structured and constructed. I don't like constructed. The end goal, I think, is to be able to improvise in a very focused and effective way. I'm not really there yet. The other thing I want to talk about is resistance to healing. In my insights this week, in my meditations this week, I realized that there is a part of me that doesn't want to heal. Just like there's a part of me that thinks eating chocolate cake is good for me, and there's a part of me that thinks not eating chocolate cake is good for me. There's a part of me that feels that healing from this chronic pain condition is good for me, and there's a part of me that feels that not healing is the best thing for me. That's fascinating. That's very fascinating. I have to ask myself, why would I believe that? Why would I ever believe that not healing would be the best thing for me? That's there. I don't like to admit it, but it's there. Well, there's a bunch of reasons for that. But I for some reason, I was brought back to this memory, this experience in my life where I think at least some of this idea came from. When I was in elementary school, a good friend of mine, we'll call him Steve, and Steve and I, were both interested in the same girl. Her name was Susan. These are not the real names. I'm making up names. Steve and I were friends. And Susan was really the first girl I ever liked. You know, that age where you go from girls that have cooties to, ooh, girls. It's a very confusing time in a young boy's life. And this girl, Susan, was the first girl that I ever felt that about. I was like, ooh, I like this girl, Susan. And one day, Steve comes in with a cast on his arm. And Steve was just instantly the most popular kid in class. Everyone wanted to talk to Steve. Everyone wanted to hang out with Steve. Everyone wanted to sign Steve's cast, including Susan. I forgot her name there for a second. Including Susan. And eventually, after this, Susan and Steve ended up becoming a couple. As much as anyone can be a couple in 4th grade or whatever. But they were dating. They were dating as a couple. And I was very jealous. And I remember being upset. I remember being legitimately upset that I didn't break my arm. Legitimately upset. And for years throughout elementary school, I wanted to break my arm. I kept hoping I would break my arm or get some sort of serious injury. And then I would experience love. Right? Because that's the core of that experience. It's somehow my brain linked up this idea that you will experience more love if people feel sorry for you because you have an injury. Right? That belief created a part in my multiplicity, the multiplicity of my mind. That is not actually me. That part is not actually me, but it is a belief that I developed. And that belief has subconsciously affected my actions and my choices and my direction in life. And if you believe what some people say, the mind can actually manifest disease in the body as a result of your beliefs. Perhaps that's what happened with me. But there's definitely a part of myself that is resistant to healing and that believes that staying as I am is the best thing for me. And I think that just requires more self-study, which is ultimately what this whole video is about. I would like to encourage you to become a student of yourself, to forever be a student of yourself, to always be learning, to always be curious, and always to be compassionate towards yourself, because let me tell you, there's some fucked up shit going up in here, okay? And we all have it, which is why most of us don't want to think about it. I was listening to a podcast last night that cited a poll, which I haven't verified, but this poll said the majority of people, I think something like 60, 70, 80% of the population, would rather experience a mild electric shock than be alone with their own thoughts. Right? If you were given the option of you had to turn off all your devices, you had to be in a room by yourself and be alone with your thoughts, or experience a mild electric shock, the majority of people chose the mild electric shock. Again, I haven't looked into this polling or verified this, but it definitely seems to be indicative of something real. That we are all running from ourselves. Because when we look inside and we see the monster of consciousness, this beast inside of us of inconsistency. Because again, we've been taught to think that there's only one self, there's one dialogue, there's one monologue, and that's you. Right? You're not the being that's aware of your inner monologue. You're the being that has a monologue, and not only are you the being that has a monologue, that is the monologue, you need to have one monologue, and that one monologue needs to be in alignment with all these other monologues, and that's what we call being a sane, normal person. Is having a consistent belief, a consistent ideology. But this is so far from the human experience. No one actually experiences this. No one actually has a consistent perspective. We are fucking hurricanes. Consciousness is a hurricane. And we need to find that eye of the storm. And in order to find the eye of the storm, we have to move into the storm. We can't run from the storm. We can't run from ourselves. We must turn and look at ourselves in the mirror and become a student of ourselves. To accept our own insanity, to accept our own chaos, and to embrace it and to love it and to show it compassion and to find the anchor of self in the storm. And to make it an art and a discipline and a practice to routinely come back to that anchor of self. Become a student of yourself. Study your body. Study your diet. Study your relationships. Study your hopes and dreams and thoughts and feelings. Study every aspect of yourself. And do it with compassion and patience. It's going to take a lot of patience. Just don't run from yourself, all right? I'm saying this as much to me as I'm saying it to you, because I need to do this too. So I'm going to turn this off and I'm going to go meditate. As soon as I'm done with this video, I'm going to go meditate, because that's the most important thing I'm going to do all day. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for embracing my weirdness and chaos that is the multiplicity of the mind. Much love.